Oh, and teams in the CFP don't usually have dudes who quote unquote opt out for the portal. It's pretty rare. And if they do, they're backup guys. They don't ever have significant dudes. Like Miami just beat Ohio State fair and square.
Ole Miss I don't even know when they play, but that's going to be a waste of time.
Yeah, Georgia should smoke them tonight. Georgia should smoke them tonight. We'll see. We'll see.
And if they win, it's like, what's the point? Why did you do
It
that?
is weird. Yeah, it is weird. I mean, I get why he went to LSU, though, but it is weird. Hello, and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB. I've got my co-host, producer extraordinaire. He's currently man of the dark.
Yeah, I don't know why my screen's that dark.
Your screen is dark today, man. Tough to see.
I don't have no clue. Maybe you need to close my door or something, trap the light in here. I have no clue what's going on, but I'm rolling. Like you could even tell when I change screens, like it gets worse. So I don't even know what's going on. Something's wrong. My camera it's only showing one of those two lines blue. That's probably part of the issue. I don't know, man. It's a tough time out here. We'll
usually more lit up. Oh, maybe that's what it is, dude. It's raining. We are coming to you on this New Year's Day. We were gonna wait for the end of the Alabama-Indiana game to record, but that game is last we checked 31-3.
Yeah, I was gonna say they were up.
So we decided. So we decided to get this thing rolling. If anything crazy happens in that game, I guess we'll address it at the end here. But for now, we're going to focus on the NFL, talk about Week 18, possible playoff matchups, scenarios, all of that good stuff. And then we'll finish with some CFP quick analysis highlights of the games that we saw, at least 3 of the 4. We won't be able to talk about Ole Miss and Georgia because that game is happening tonight after we record this podcast. But we'll talk about the other 3 games and what it means moving forward. So Happy New Year's, Jody.
Happy New Year.
Any
day 1 of 1.
Did you stay up?
No, not at all.
You didn't stay up for the ball drop last night?
Nope. I think I was in bed by 9:15, so I could have watched the East Coast. And then I think I actually went to bed at 10:30.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think I was in bed by 10:30 here, so I guess would have been 9:30 on the East Coast. So yeah, I think or I guess it would have been 11:30 on the East Coast. That's my bad.
Yeah, 9:30 on my time.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the NFL. Let's first start with the standings and remind ourselves where we sit in the NFC. The Seahawks got a big win. They're 13-3. They will be either the 1 or the 5 seed. They're currently the 1 seed. Week 18, big game at the 49ers. That's the NFC West title game and the 1 seed game. Yeah. The 2 seed right now is the Bears at 11-5. Week 18, they get the Lions at home. If they can win that game, they lock up the 2 seed. The 3 seed, the Eagles, they're also 11-5. They've got Week 18 versus the Commanders. If they can win that game and the Bears lose, they could get to the 2 seed. The 4 seed currently is the 8-8 Panthers, who play a Week 18 title game at the Buccaneers. It's the NFC South title game with a small asterisk, which we will explain later.
True.
But we're gonna just for purposes of for fun, it's the NFC South title game. Yeah. The 5 seed right now is the 49ers at 12-4. They have a Week 18 date at home against the Seahawks. Again, we said that is the NFC West title game and the 1 seed game. If they lose that game, they could be 5 or 6, depending on what happens with the Rams. And in the 6th seed, you have the Rams at 11-5. They've got a Week 18 home date against the Cardinals that Sean McVay says all their guys are going to play in. We'll see. Last but not least, the 7th seed, the Packers. They're 9-6-1. They have a Week 18 home date versus at the Vikings. They are locked into the 7th seed, whether they win or lose that game. It does not matter. So we'll see what they do. I think they're going to rest some guys. And the only other team alive in the NFC now is the Buccaneers at 7-9. As we said, they are playing at home versus the Panthers in that NFC South title game with an asterisk. In the AFC, the Broncos, they're 13-3. They have a Week 18 date with the Chargers. If they can win that game, they clinch the 1 seed. They've already clinched the AFC West. If they were to lose, they likely fall to the 3 seed.
That's crazy.
Unless somehow Jacksonville loses. So the Patriots, they are 13-3. They have a Week 18 home game versus the Dolphins. If they win that and the Broncos lose, they become the 1 seed. And the Jaguars, 12-4, Week 18 versus the Titans. As long as they win that, they clinch the 3 seed. That's the worst they could be. Truthfully, the 3 seed is the worst they're going to be regardless. But as long as they win that, they then they would keep themselves in play for the 1 or the 2 seed as well, depending on what happens with the Patriots and the Broncos. The Steelers at the 4 seed, currently 9-7, Week 18, home game versus the Ravens on Sunday Night Football, the AFC North title game, big time game there. You have the Texans and the 5th seed right now, 11-5, Week 18 versus the Colts. You have the 6th-seeded Chargers, 11-5, Week 18 at the Broncos. We explained that one. Sounds like Herbert's going to be resting. And the 7th seed, the Bills, 11-5, Week 18 versus the Jets. Finally, the Ravens, last team alive in the AFC at 8-8. They have that Week 18 date at the Steelers, the AFC North title game. Jody, what do you think of the Week 18 slate? Any of those games stand out to you?
There's a lot of moving parts for one, but I think we'll get ourselves some good games. Like Seahawks, San Fran. Just there's so much on the line. That's going to be a great game. You're looking at, let's see, what else? Oh, the Panthers, Bucks. You know what I mean? I guess we'll get to the stipulation later, but that should be a good game. In the AFC, I mean, Steelers, Ravens. Ravens, I don't know how they're still in this, but they made it.
The Browns did
we'll
them
see
a
what
favor.
happens there. Huh?
The Browns did them a favor. It's funny.
True.
Last week, I guess I should say the day after
Shador.
Yeah, the day after Christmas we recorded, and I basically said the Steelers had it locked up. I really did not see them losing to the Browns, so I guess I should have given the Browns some more respect and also given the Ravens some more life than I gave them credit for. It's now a win and in game. It's basically a playoff game, so it should be fun. As far as the slate goes, Saturday afternoon, the first game we'll get is Panthers-Bucks. Now, why that's important is as far as those teams know going into that game, the winner takes the division, right? If the Panthers win, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. They are divisional champs. But if the Bucks win, that would mean that the Bucks are 8-9 and the Panthers are 8-9.
And then they become
if both those teams finish 8-9, the Buccaneers have the tiebreaker over the Panthers, which I believe is like common games at that point. It goes to common games because they would be 1-1 against each other. Obviously, their divisional record, or I think it's common games and then divisional record and yada, 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 whatever. But in common games against common opponents, I believe the Bucks have a better record. So the Bucks win that tiebreaker. So they would be an 8-9 divisional champ. However, on Sunday morning, the Saints and the Falcons play, right, in Atlanta. If the Falcons win that game, they also become 8-9. So then you'd have a 3-way tie between the Panthers, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons. And so, Jody, you ask yourself, well, if they're all 8-9, who wins the tiebreaker then? You guessed it, the Panthers. Yeah. The Panthers win that tiebreaker because they went 2-0 against the Falcons. So in a three-way tie, the way to decide it first is your games against each other. So the Panthers would be 3-1, whereas the
Wow.
Bucks would be 2-2, and the Falcons would be 1-3. So the Panthers would still take the division, even though they lost Saturday. So that's why it was very important they put Panthers Bucks before or at the same time as Saints Falcons.
Yeah.
Because they don't want those Panthers and Bucks to know whether or not,
Like, oh, you know what? I don't
they
gotta play
don't want the
anybody no
Panthers
more.
to have to know. Yes. They don't want the Panthers to have to know whether or not they got to play. So now the Panthers and the Bucks play Saturday as if it's a division title game, right? If the Bucks win, then they got to root for the Saints. If the
Yep.
Panthers win, then there is no rooting. And if the Panthers lose, then they're rooting for the Falcons. And then that
Yeah.
Saints-Falcons game will determine nothing would be more NFC South, man, than a game between a 6-10 team and a 7-9 team determining the division. That would be insanity. So Panthers at Bucks, first game of the day, Saturday. Saturday night, we've got Seahawks at 49ers. Huge game, obviously, in the NFC will determine the one seed. Should be fun. If the Seahawks lose, then what that does for some of the other teams in the NFC, it will essentially determine the rest of the seeding. If the Seahawks lose, they would be locked into the 5. The Rams would be locked into 6. The Packers would be locked into 7. The only thing that would be determined is still obviously what happens in the NFC South, and then just do the Bears and Eagles flip, basically. So it would be like who would be hosting the Rams, the Bears or the Eagles. That's the only thing that could change if the Seahawks lose. If the 49ers lose, then there's a lot that can change, right? The Rams could win, move up to the 5 seed. San Francisco would move down to the 6 seed. And then we still have Philly and Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Or if the Rams were to lose to the Cardinals, the 49ers would be the 5 seed, the Rams would be the 6 seed, so on and so forth. So a lot of movement based on what happens in that Seahawks 49ers game. On Sunday morning, we've got, kind of some meaningless games. Packers at Vikings, nothing at stake for either team except for draft position for the Vikings if they lose. The Packers, they're locked in. Nothing can change for them. The Browns at the Bengals, both those teams, it's just draft position. The Colts at Texans, right? That's still kind of a big game. The Colts can't make the playoffs, but the Texans are playing for seeding. So that still has playoff implications. Cowboys at Giants has got nothing. Saints at Falcons, we mentioned why that could be important. If the Panthers win, that suddenly becomes a meaningless game. If the Bucks win, it means a lot. So could be kind of a huge game or not. The Titans at the Jags, we talked about what's at stake for the Jags. Could be, playoff seeding on the line for them. Sunday afternoon, Chargers at Broncos. We'll talk about that one. Chiefs at Raiders is a nothing burger. And then the rest of the games in the afternoon slate all matter. Commanders at Eagles, Jets at Bills, Dolphins at Patriots, Cardinals at Rams, Lions at Bears. None of those games are between playoff teams, but they all include a playoff team maybe fighting for positioning. And then obviously the Sunday night game, the one we said we're most excited for in the AFC, Ravens at Steelers. So what we want to do is break down some of the bigger games of this week and talk to you about who might win and why and what's going to determine the game. And if you're going to bet on the games, what to look for and what to bet on, huh?
Yeah, a little something for everybody. Looks like we're kicking it off with the Seahawks at Niners. That's Saturday night game. Did you have film for this, or are we just speaking?
Oh, we're just rolling. No film.
We're just
We'll save the film breakdowns for the playoffs. Week 18, though, we do have some fun stuff. This Saturday night game, I figured we'd start with this game, right? Because in truth, it's not hard to say that this is the best game of the weekend, right? It's not only for the NFC West. It's not only for the 1 seed, but the loser drops all the way into the wild card, right? In the case of the Seahawks, the 5th seed. And in the case of the 49ers, they could be 5th or 6th. And, for the Niners, it would be the 6th seed as long as the Rams beat the Cardinals. So there's a lot at stake. These teams have gone through a ton of revolutions since their first meeting in Seattle, which was in week 1, a 17-13 San Francisco win. San Francisco has an opportunity to make week 16 Monday Night Football, that game against the Colts, their last road trip of the season. How crazy would that be? I tried to say that the other week with the Broncos, and I was wrong. In this case, I made sure, right? Week 17 home for the Bears. Week 18 home for Seattle. If they win that game, they'd get a bye. Divisional round, they'd be home. Conference championship, they'd be home. And guess what? For the Super Bowl, they would also be home. So they could say our last road trip was the middle of December. And then we just went all through the rest of December, January, February, never having to pack a bag. So that would be impressive for San Francisco if they can manage to pull that off. Seattle, especially all the difficulties that San Francisco's had on defense, the injuries and everything is impressive, man. And Seattle, on the other side, has a chance to win 14 games, secure one of their best regular seasons since the Legion of Boom. And the loser, believe it or not, like San Fran, if you lose and you become the 6th seed, you may be going to Philly in week 1. So you could be, hey, we're at home, we never have to leave home, to all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we're on the road at the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles in wild card round. I mean, there's nothing more at stake than that, basically. So, that's a tough pill to swallow. Everything is on the line. That's why this is the best game of the weekend. So 3 major keys to the game, Jody. Number 1, takeaways. All right, I'm going to read you a stat here. All right. The Seahawks rank 31st in the NFL in giveaways per game. They're turning it over.
I heard about that.
At a rate of almost 2 giveaways per game. They're at 1.8. Sam Darnold has 14 INTs. That's 3rd in the NFL. And on the other side, the 49ers rank 22nd in the NFL in giveaways at 1.3 per game. So they're not that much better. Seattle's defense ranks 5th in the NFL in takeaways per game. They create about 1.5 to balance out all the giveaways they give away.
Yeah.
And San Francisco ranks 22nd on defense in takeaways. They only create about 1 a game. So the point is this: there will be turnovers in this game. That's what the numbers say. Which team is going to take advantage of them and create points while also taking points away from the other team's offense? Because we know both of these offenses can score, right? So who's going to take better advantage of the takeaways and create points off of them? That's a major key in this game. Number 2, Seattle's pass rush versus Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, he's been on a heater recently. Extending plays with his legs, doing some crazy stuff. We obviously saw the play last week on Sunday Night Football. Incredible. Finding players open late in plays. In the last 3 games, he's thrown for nearly 300 yards in all 3 games. He has 11 touchdowns, only 2 picks. And Seattle is tied for 6th in the NFL at 2.8 sacks per game. So you've got a guy on a heater who extends plays, does a great job, versus a defense that creates a lot of sacks, right? And so they've been dialing up, in Seattle, a nice mix of pressures, games, letting their D-line eat to generate pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I do love watching the Mike McDonald defense work. He does a great job scheming pass rush, especially. And it's also another factor worth noting. This is a big matchup with Trent Williams likely out of the game. So that means the 49ers are going to have to depend on Austin Pleasance, who did play well against Chicago, but Chicago's pass rush not nearly as good as Seattle's.
What he hurt? I know he got hurt like the first play of the game. What happened?
Oh, I don't remember what. I think it was a hamstring. He pulled a hamstring.
Oh,
that's what it was. Yeah, so he could be, and that's the other thing. It's the other reason San Francisco needs the bye, right? Because you may be playing on the road at Philly without Trent Williams or Fred Warner or Bosa or the list goes on there, Ayuk and all of that. So, we'll see. We'll see. Last major key to this game is, what is Robert Saleh's plan to make Seattle one-dimensional? Seattle has not consistently generated a rushing attack this season. They've been better recently. During the second half of the year, though, this has kind of hurt Sam Darnold. It's put a lot on his plate. When this happens, teams can put a lot of pressure on Seattle, and that leads to mistakes by Darnold, right? He's a lot like Jared Goff to me. They're very similar quarterbacks. If you give them a clean pocket, you give them a lot of play action, they will dice you up, right? But if you muddy the pocket in the drop back game, that's when mistakes, sacks, inaccuracies, all that kind of stuff happens, right? That's when takeaways happen. And so that's why Seattle's turned the ball over a lot, is when teams have made it so they can't run the ball. Their play action isn't nearly as effective, and then they get in a drop back game with Sam Darnold, and that's not where you want to be with the O-line that he has in front of him that allows a lot of pressure in his face, right? So can the 49ers defense, which has not been very good, it's very beat up, right? Can they do just enough to stop the run and make Seattle one-dimensional? Because over the course of a game, I think that will pay off for them. And then can they capitalize and force Darnold into mistakes? I think for Seattle, you're looking at it and you're like, our offense is really good if we can create 2 turnovers, right? And allow our offense to capitalize off of that and score, we will be in a very good spot to win this game and win the NFC West and win the 1 seed. Versus if you're Seattle, hey, man, if we can run the ball and eliminate maybe some of the pressure on Darnold and eliminate some of those takeaways and maybe play a game where we're winning most of the game and allows our pass rush to eat versus Brock Purdy, now we have the advantage and we can go win this game. So I think those are the three major keys to the game, right? Turnovers, pass rush versus Brock Purdy, run defense of San Francisco versus Seattle, right? Those are going to be the 3 things that you look for in this game that will determine, probably the course of the NFC, not just these 2 teams, but all the teams that are in the NFC playoff field. So as we're watching this game, what bets should we make, Jody?
For me, looking at a prop bet, I just, while you were talking, I thought of another one. We could add in Sam Darnold pick. I think that seems like a solid one. But the one I was originally going to do was, I guess you could add to it, the Christian McCaffrey, his over prop on receiving and rushing yards at 113.5. I mean, I think that dude's been crucial for them all year.
Yes.
He's going to be, without Trent Williams, he's going to be checked down if there's ever any pressure. So he's going to be running up and down the field like crazy. And then for looking at a sports book, I was looking at the over of 48. I mean, we've seen what happened last week with the Bears. Those dudes dropped like 70-something points combined. I think it's very doable with these 2 teams. With the defense on San Fran being a little wishy-washy, that seems like a recipe for JSN to go nuts. They're going to have to answer, you know what I mean? Very similar to what we saw last week. So I think the over in this game is also in play.
I like all those bets. My prediction is right on. I think it says a lot that, when we did our 2 weeks out prediction, in that prediction, you had Seattle over San Francisco, right?
I did.
I had San Francisco, winning or losing to Chicago, but then I thought maybe they'd come back and beat Seattle, right? We kind of talked about that idea, or Seattle losing to Carolina, but then coming back and beating San Francisco, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I flip-flopped on this game a number of times. I believe you have as well. Final prediction for me, I finally came down to this. I just think it's Seattle's year right now in the NFC.
Yeah.
I think they're the most complete team in the NFC. They've proven that through the regular season. I know they have to go on the road, but to me, when I thought about this game, Seattle split with the Rams, and they sort of did it in an unconventional way, but at the end of the day, it sort of made sense, those 2 teams splitting. In order for these two teams to split, which in my mind also makes sense, Seattle has to win this game. So I get the feeling that Seattle just finds a way and gets it done. I think San Francisco is just a little too beat up on defense. Otherwise, if I have more faith in San Francisco's defense, I think I would pick them because of the heater their offense is on. Yeah. And Shanahan deserves all the praise and love he may or may not get for Coach of the Year. I think he should be the Coach of the Year. That's just my opinion. They were 6-4 and beat up and looking like maybe they'll make it as a 7 seed or whatever. And now all of a sudden they've won 6 games in a row. If they can win a 7th, they are the NFC's 1 seed. That's a heck of a coaching job that I don't know crazy. A lot of other people were pulling off. When you've got no Ayuk since last season, you've got no Fred Bosa for most of the year, no Fred Warner for most of the year. Trent Williams is being banged up. Brock Purdy missed 8 games. George Kittle's missed games here and there. Ricky Pearsall's been in and out of the lineup. At one point, Jawan Jennings wasn't able to play. I mean, that team has weathered the storm of every injury to basically anybody but CMC. The one guy who's remained healthy and been able to play all year was CMC, which if, as you came into the year, that would have been the one guy you probably would have bet, he doesn't make the whole year. But to his credit, He's done a great job. He's maintained his health, and he's been healthy for him all year. He's about the only star on that team that has been, and yet Shanahan has them in this position. The fact that they're even here is a masterclass in coaching. But ultimately, I went Seahawks 27, San Francisco 24. I think Seattle's defense comes up with some kind of big play that allows them to win it, kick a field goal for the win at the end. So that goes with your over 48. What do you have?
I got Seattle 24, San Fran 30. I think when it comes down to it, especially this slate, I think home field is massive. You know, the Bang Bang Niner game with the faithful 49 or whatever they call themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're going to be going nuts. And I think that's going to be crucial. And I also think there's a possibility for weather, which, you know, who knows what happens with that. And so I just see San Fran winning, pulling off, you know, like you said, Kyle Shanahan balling out with a team that's been pieces all year. I don't know. I had, like you said, I had it last week with Seattle, but I don't know. Yeah, I think you convinced me to flip flop last week, so here we are again.
It's hilarious. I convinced you to flip, and yet I also flipped.
Yeah.
I do recognize, you know, the irony in that I am on Sam Darnold. He was in this exact spot last year. On the road, chance to win the 1 seed in the NFC, lost, ended up in the 5 seed and lost that game. So I know what you're thinking, but I'm going with him to get it done this time. All right. We're going to go with him to get it done. I may regret it completely. Okay. Next game, Panthers at Bucks. This game will happen earlier in the day. I just thought we'd get the best game done first. This is the next most fun game, I guess you will. Why this game is fun? It's the freaking NFC South. Somebody has to win the division. And the most fun idea is still Bucks win and then lose the division because the Falcons win the next day and the Panthers just backdoor their way in. That would be hilarious. We have no idea with the range of outcomes that could happen as far as who will actually host a playoff game in the NFC against the Rams or the Seahawks or the 49ers. But the major keys to this game, or the major key, the game appears very simple to me, and it's really just a simple deal here. Who plays better, Baker Mayfield or Bryce Young? I mean, that's really it. Baker's stats over the course of the season, I'll read them off to you. 63% completions, almost 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 picks. In the last 3 games, he's 768 in terms of yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's 0-3.
Oof.
Bryce Young, 63% completions, almost 2,800 yards, 21 touchdowns, 10 picks, 408 yards in the last 3 touchdowns, 1 INT, 1 and 2 in the last 3. So their stats over the course of the season look pretty similar. Baker's thrown for a few more yards and a few more touchdowns. But same completion percentage, same number of interceptions. You can see they're both kind of struggling in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Neither guy has played an elite level recently, and for different reasons, right? With Baker, he's not risk averse. Okay. He's taken more risks as the Bucs defense has slowly, or truthfully rapidly, become worse in the back half of the season. He's made worse decisions. He's also beat up. So some of the throws he was making early in the season, it's like his mind is still seeing it and he wants to make a throw, but his body is not doing it like he was earlier in the year. And those throws that he was fitting in some windows are now maybe becoming picks or incompletions, and it's hurting the offense. I also think he's just making worse decisions. And I do wonder if that's just because he thinks he has to. Like he's got to kind of put the cape on and will his team to victory. And instead it's kind of hurting them more and more. So can he make the big time throws without making the big time mistakes? That'll be a question for him. Whereas Bryce Young, he takes very few risks. He wants to see throws open. He hasn't taken a ton of 50-50 shots, right? He was very, I guess there was a lack of aggressiveness last week against Seattle. This is why his yards are down. He only threw for like 54 yards in that Seattle game, right? His yards are down. His interceptions are also down recently. He's only thrown 1 pick in the last 3 games, but he's not taking chances. Now that's why. He has to be more aggressive to give their offense a shot in the road, especially against a Bucs defense that's going to pressure and play a ton of man. Like they're going to give you big opportunities to make big plays. And I think he's going to have to be able to make them. So whichever quarterback plays better, likely gives his team the opportunity to win the game, and obviously the opportunity to host a playoff game. Again, pending the outcome of Saints Falcons if you're the Bucks. But
Yeah.
so the good news for Bucks fans, the Saints have been playing very well recently. I know the Falcons have as well, and the Falcons are at home. But I do think that's a toss-up game. So if you're the Bucks, get the win and then root hard for Tyler Shuck and the Saints, right?
Yeah.
And if you're the Panthers, the nice thing for you is you're kind of playing with house money. You can win this game and then you don't have to worry. But if you lose,
You still got a
well,
chance.
the Falcons have a pretty good chance at winning that game. So you're okay. So that's kind of what we're looking for in this game. Which quarterback plays better, right? So as we're watching it, what should we put money on, Jody?
For me this week, I'm rolling with Carolina money line at plus 125 for this game. I think they get it done. I think it comes down to their running game more than anything. As you could tell, you said he had 54 yards last week passing. Like, clearly that's not how they're getting it done on offense. I think they're going to do the same thing now. Be more cautious, take it slow, grind out the clock, whatever you need to do. For the prop bet, I'm looking at Ted McMillan under 23.5 on his longest reception. I think that kind of goes tied into that, where they're probably not throwing it deep because they're not going to take risk. Just going to grind out the field, and he's not going to get over 24 yards on that first, or on his longest catch. Turning it over to my prediction for the game. I got Carolina winning at 21, Tampa Bay 17. I think it's going to be low and slow. Kind of something happens at the end to where they win. And then whoever it is, regardless, I think Carolina's winning, but at the end of the day, whoever has the
I
ball
like
last
that.
probably winning this game.
Low and slow. I really like that one. I've got Carolina winning 19-17. I think it's just going to be a gross game. The first game was like that. I think it was 23-20. And I do think that you'll see a similar kind of game, maybe even worse offensively. I've got Carolina, getting a touchdown and 4 field goals to win it, basically, where Tampa gets, 2 touchdowns and a field goal to be in it. But I think Carolina kicks a game winner at the end of the game. They're down 16-17. They kick a game-winning field goal to make it 19-17. Bryce Young just enough. He does just enough to win them this game, and they're the NFC South champions, and we don't have to worry about the Saints-Falcons outcome.
Very true.
Okay, next game, Sunday night, winner take all, last game of the NFL regular season, Ravens at Steelers. This isn't quite the show that the NFC South is, but it's hard to believe either team will win a playoff game outside of this play and in game. So why is it so fun? The jobs of Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh might be on the line in this game.
Yeah, that's true.
They're 2 of the longest tenured head coaches in the NFL. It's one of the NFL's best coaching rivalries. I mean, these guys have been coaching against each other since 2008 when Harbaugh got the job, right? It's unreal. It's like I think they have 30 something matchups.
That's crazy.
And could this be the last one though of at least Ravens, Steelers, Harbaugh, Tomlin? It's Ravens and Steelers. Everything is at stake, right? Both the quarterbacks' futures are in doubt. People have talked about, obviously, Rodgers could retire. He could sign a deal with another team. Who knows? He could be back with the Steelers. Lamar Jackson, there's been a lot of stuff coming out of Baltimore this week about he's never healthy and, his late night video game habits, his eating habits, and he doesn't have an agent and, they're all upset with him or whatever, right? And his relationship with Harbaugh is strained, and that's why it might be if they lose this game, he or Harbaugh could be gone. Maybe both. Who knows, right?
That would be
so
wild.
There's a lot there. And if you're the Steelers, it could be okay, we're ready to move on from Tomlin and Rodgers. We're done with you too.
See
we
you
need
later.
A new coach and we need a new quarterback. And you never know, right? So I do think whichever team loses, there will be implications for them. And honestly, there could be implications for both because even the winning team, if they're one and done in the playoffs, they could also be in a tough spot. So we'll see. The major key to this game, in my mind, is Derrick Henry, period, full stop. Right? Will the Ravens give him the ball, and can the Steelers stop him when they do? Right? And the Ravens 8 wins this season. Derrick Henry has 157 carries for 771 yards. That's an average of under 5, just at about 5 a game, or 5 a carry, and 9 touchdowns. In their 8 losses, he has only 130 carries for 698 yards, still right around that 5 yard average. It's actually a little bit more, 5.3, and 7 touchdowns. So while the average per carry and the touchdowns are pretty similar, the correlation is in the number of carries he gets. In wins, he averages 20 carries. In losses, he averages only 16, right? And when these teams played a few weeks ago, he had 25 carries for 94 yards, no touchdowns. So Pittsburgh is 13th in the NFL in rush yards per attempt allowed. They did a pretty decent job against him in the first game, right? They only allowed 3.8 yards a carry, and they'll need to do that again here. Okay, but if they can get him running, I mean, we saw what he did to the Packers last week, right? 36 carries, it was over 200 yards. I mean, dude was unbelievable.
Or something. 3 tutties,
the
I think.
Bonus,
3, right? Is that what it was?
I think it was 4, actually.
Oh, jeez.
The bonus here is, can the Steelers manufacture any kind of passing game without DK? Because I'm going to be honest, that's why they lost that game to the Browns. They didn't have a receiver who could make a play. Rodgers actually put the ball on some back shoulder throws and some bucket throw. Like, he gave his guys chances. They never made a play for him. He had to be super frustrated. So if they don't have a guy who can kind of fill in the DK shoes, or they can't manufacture some stuff, it's going to be really hard for the Steelers to generate offense, which is why I think it's so important for the Ravens that they just feed Derrick Henry. Don't turn the ball over. Don't give the Steelers points, right? Just feed Derrick Henry. Be okay with punting. I do think this game will be fairly low scoring, maybe just reaches the 20s, where, you just see defenses and special teams make some plays to help their offenses. But, I think this is going to be a tough, gritty game, and it's going to come down to Derrick Henry running the ball. Jody, what are you looking for on your bets?
Well, speaking of Derrick Henry running the ball, I know you said last time they played he didn't score a touchdown. Well, I don't think that's happening this time. He's scoring. Got to get that man in the end zone. It's pretty much all they've done all December. I think he's got, well, like we said last week alone, he's got 3 or 4 touchdowns at least. You know what I mean? Like, he's getting it done when it matters. They got to feed him because they got Huntley back there. I'm not saying he's not. He's not Lamar. I'll say that. We'll go there. He's not Lamar. Yeah. So they got to give the man the ball. And so Derrick Henry touchdown. I like that for this game. My sportsbook bet, I'm looking at Baltimore -3.5. I think they're getting it done. I know it's in the steel curtain land, but they're gonna go in there and they're gonna have their backup, take them to the playoffs. Lamar's gonna come back, and we'll see what happens there. But we'll see. My prediction.
We'll see. I mean, it's not that Lamar. They're still, jury's out on whether Lamar plays.
I don't think
he might play.
And if he does, I think it's even better. I think they win even more, honestly.
Wow. Okay. All right. He's confident. Yeah. I flip-flopped on this game a lot too. I really have. I flip-flopped a ton. It's kind of like Seattle and San Francisco. If the Steelers had DK, I'm taking the Steelers. I think the Steelers are just a better team this year. They just are. They've been more functional for most of the season. They went into Baltimore and won. They should be able to win this game at home. But after watching that Browns game, it is hard. I'm hard pressed to believe in their offense without DK Metcalf.
Because that's part of the reason why the other thing. They can't get it done.
That's the other thing, is I don't think they're going to have TJ Watt. So no Watt on offense, no DK no Watt on defense, no DK on offense. Those are arguably their best offensive and best defensive player.
Yeah.
So I'm hard pressed to pick them when they're missing their best player on either side of the ball. And Rodgers just looked so frustrated last week. He had no receivers who can make a play for him. I don't see that changing. So I do think the Steelers defense is up to the task. I think they will keep them in it, but ultimately I have the Ravens winning 22-20. So I actually have the Ravens winning, but I don't like your 3.5. I think it's a closer game than that. I almost picked the Steelers, but I just think they're missing too much. So I'm going, and this is also classic. This is how it was when they played each other the first time. Everyone was on the Ravens. Oh, Tomlin can't get it done. Rodgers too old, the whole deal. Then they went
Yeah.
to Baltimore and won. And I think this is exactly where Mike Tomlin wants to be. That's why I'm having such a tough time because I feel like I'm going to be sitting here in a few days going like, why did I not see it? It's a classic Steelers game. Classic. Tomlin wins it, and they do just enough. They get to the playoffs, and then they'll lose in the wild card because that's what
Yeah.
they do every year. So it still feels like that, but feels like the Ravens have a little more momentum and they're a little healthier. So I'm going to go Ravens, but I'm telling you, if the Steelers win, I will not be shocked at all.
Yeah, see, my answer comes in a little bit more poetic way. You know what I mean? I got Steelers. They got their 9 wins. Tomlin's getting his, above 500 or at least 500, whatever you want to call it. But he's not making the playoffs this time. His job has been on the line all year. Everyone's been complaining. I think it would make sense that he gets his 9-8, and they don't make the playoffs in this way, where they lose to their divisional opponent who snuck their way back in at the end. So I got Baltimore 24, Pittsburgh 17.
Okay. All right. Next game, Broncos Chargers. And we decided to still kind of, I know Herbert's out, but this game is still fun. The Broncos are playing for the number 1 seed. And if they lose, they'll likely be third, assuming the Jags and Patriots win. And that's a big difference between a bye and possibly hosting either Justin Herbert or Josh Allen in the wild card round.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's kind of like, it's not quite the swing that the Niners have, but it's a similar, like, man, you could go from like you're sitting on your couch waiting for the divisional round to you got to win a tough matchup against a good team. Now, the difference is at least they would still be at home. Now, the bummer is that the Chargers obviously appear content with whatever happens. I think I've seen a lot of stuff saying, like, if you're the Chargers and you win this game, basically what you're saying is we go right back to Denver, right? Versus if
We
you
just
lose
showed
the
you
game,
everything. Now we're back.
yeah, versus if you lose the game, you get to go to New England. And so I think there's a little bit of jockeying for position there and kind of thinking
That
like,
makes sense.
we'd be okay with going to New England instead.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably part of why they're sitting Justin Herbert above from the obvious, no matter
His
what
hand.
happens. We just want to make sure we have Justin
Oh.
Herbert for the playoffs. And so, that makes sense. And then obviously, yes, his hand is already still beat up. So let's make sure we give him the week off, right? But it's still true. The Broncos do play every game close. So
Yeah, very
it's
true.
I'd still see it as a fun game. The big key to this game, I think, is Bo Nix versus Jesse Minter, right? The Chargers are not likely to score a ton of points with Herbert out. I imagine they'll be lucky to touch 20. And so they'll need their defense to be awesome to keep them in it. I think the good news for them is that Nix had one of his worst starts of the season against them in September. He completed only 56% of his passes. He only threw for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. He was also sacked twice, and the Broncos were a dismal 2 for 13 on third down in that game. Jesse Minter does so much fun stuff to confuse an O-line and a quarterback in passing situations. Can you do that enough to help Trey Lance in this Charger offense, right? And that'll be the big question in this game. I still think it's one worth watching.
Yeah, my bad. The bets I'm looking at for this game.
I don't want to give you a good lead in. I was trying something different there.
yeah. I heard the pause and I was like, oh, this is my talk.
I hit the just like, I'll just mute myself and let's see if bro catches on. No, he did.
Well, I was reading the question on the screen and then I was like, oh, am I supposed to respond? My bad. I thought he was going to answer his own question. No, but I mean, I think the prop bet I'm taking here kind of checks out with the 153 yards in that first game. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I think it makes my answer even better. So I'm taking Cortland Sutton under 61.5 yards. I think
Okay.
at the end of the day, it's going to come down to them just run the ball. Denver does that a lot anyways, especially now. And I think it's kind of, put Bo Nix in a better position to stay healthier. You know what I mean? I don't think you want him drop him back a lot prior to the playoffs, especially with the shot to stay at home for, all the way till the Super Bowl if that were to be the case. The sports book bet I was looking at, I didn't really like any of them. I think the line was like 12.5 or 10.5. It was high, and the over under was sitting at 37.5. It's kind of just gross. Like I don't. They didn't even let you bet on the spread. I think it was grayed out when I looked at it. So I'm taking under 37.5. It's kind of how they've been playing the Broncos recently. You just like the Chiefs game last week. I think that one was stuck at like 34 or something. It wasn't that. So I'm taking the under here. I got the Chargers getting in at 10 points. Denver 17. I don't know. There's too many outside factors of people sitting at this time of year, especially in this game. I don't know what's going to happen.
I laughed because I didn't know the line was at 37.5, and I have my final score right at 37. So I was just laughing at how often I think the sports books are just so good at this. Like, it's hilarious. Like every time I'm like, oh, I think it'll be this score to this score, and then you go look and you're like, golly, that's like right at the line.
Yeah, the half under, the half over.
Yeah. I've got the Chargers 13. Like I said, don't think they'll touch 20 with Trey Lance at quarterback. And I've got the Broncos at 24. So do the Broncos win semi-convincingly? Yeah. But did the Chargers defense do just enough to kind of keep them in it until later in the game? Like it's 17-13 for a while. Then the Broncos score like a late touchdown to push it ahead 24-13. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So that's what I have. Final score, Broncos win 24-13, secure the 1 seed. All right, last game that we want to talk about. Bears-Lions, all right? And this game, yeah, the Bears have the 2 seed on the line. Whether or not they care, we aren't sure. And yeah, the Lions have nothing to play for. At face value, this game could be like kind of unimportant, right?
Mm-hmm.
The seeding matters, sure, but the implications in the NFC could be huge. And really, this is Dan Campbell versus Ben Johnson. Don't let anybody tell you different. All right? The Apprentice has become the master since their last matchup. The Apprentice has become the master, all right? In week 2, the Lions beat the Bears 52-21. And I can tell you, the Chicago Bears haven't forgotten that. Ben
Johnson hasn't forgotten that.
Hasn't forgotten that. And if you know anything, I don't think you have to really know the guy to just watch him and know he is an ultra competitor, right? And since that 52-21 loss that sent the Bears to 0-2, by the way, the Lions have gone 7-7, including 3 straight losses. They're 1-4 in their last 5, and they've missed the playoffs. And meanwhile, the Bears have gone 11-3 with wins over the Packers and the Eagles. And Ben Johnson seems like the ultra competitive type, as we mentioned a second ago, who would love to not just beat the Lions, but bury them heading into the offseason, like embarrass them, right? Let's not forget that last year when he went to Chicago with Detroit, he ran the stumble bum with Goff and the crazy trick plays and all that. He did it all, right?
Do you think he runs that against them?
I think he has a couple FU plays in the playbook that he's saving for this game. Yes, I think that exists. I think there's a couple. I'm going to remind you guys who I am and make sure Detroit knows what they lost. Yeah, especially after they got that beat down in week 2. All right, so I'm just telling you, I'm going to watch this game just because of that. Like, yeah, the seeding implications, NFC, all that. But Ben Johnson versus Dan Campbell, I want to see that because those 2 dudes are ultra competitive. And I know that this game means something to both of them. And this isn't just going to be a meaningless game, okay? I think this game means a lot to both those guys and both those teams, truthfully. So because Bears-Lions, it's not, the one of the quote-unquote premier rivalries in the NFL, but it is a rivalry. And especially with these 2 head coaches, I think that's going to be one that gets jacked up over the next few years.
Also, speaking of plays being drawn up, did you see how many hook and ladders were run last week? There was like 3 of them.
A lot of them.
Way too many. It was crazy. But looking ahead at the bets on this game, my prop bet I'm looking at is Jared Goff over 253.5. Kind of his MO. Like you said, clean pocket. He's going to dice him up. I kind of think he has that time this week. I don't know. The Bears line has been putting too much pressure on people, considering San Fran dropped 40. So I kind of think he's going to get over that passing prop because he's going to throw it all day. looking at the sports book, I like the Bears -3, and I also like the over in this game at 50.5. I kind of, like I said, we've seen what happened last week for San Fran. I kind of think it's going to be similar. Both the defenses are just going to be non-existent. We're going to run up the points till God knows when.
The only thing that could hurt us on this is the weather.
Yeah, true.
But
I don't know what that's looking like, but
I do agree with you. I have the Bears putting it on them a little bit, though. I have it 42-24. I think maybe it's a game for a half, and then the second half, I think Chicago starts to pour it on, and Ben Johnson gets his lick back. So that's my guess. I have it way over the 50.5 at 66 points. You have it tremendously over at 77. Yeah, so
yeah, I got
we'll
Detroit
see.
35,
The
Chicago
weather
42.
the weather could keep us from getting there, but we both have the Bears winning. So we'll see what goes on with that. If you don't love the over like we do, maybe you just take the Bears because we both like the Bears. So the last thing I kind of wanted to get to here, based on our projections and predictions, ultimately, I guess in the NFC, the only place where we're a little different. What I have,
Sure.
Seattle 1, Chicago 2, Philly 3, Carolina 4, the Rams 5, San Fran 6, and Green Bay 7. And the difference is you have
San
San Fran
1.
1, Seattle 5, the Rams 6, right?
Yeah.
So in the AFC, we have it exactly the same. We have Broncos 1, Patriots 2, Jaguars 3, Ravens 4, Texans 5, Bills 6, Chargers 7.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was the case, right, and we're operating under that assumption, or at least similar assumptions, right, I was kind of looking at projecting what could the playoff schedule be, because it's always kind of fun, like, the matchups, but then you also kind of see, like, which games land on which days on which networks and all that, right?
The Saturdays, the Sundays,
and the Monday night game.
Yeah, for the
Okay,
super
so
wild card weekend.
Super wild card weekend. I'm going to give my super wild card weekend projection for not only games and times, but also even networks and broadcast teams. You ready for this, Jody?
Go. Yeah, let's hear it out.
All right. So this is off the top of the dome, by the way. At 4:30 Eastern, I believe it's a 4:30 Eastern start time for that Saturday.
Right.
That Saturday super wild card weekend. Let's double check this and make sure. I said I was going to do it off the dome, but I'm going to check my notes to be sure I don't miss anything. Okay, here's what I've got. At 4:30 Eastern on CBS with a broadcast team of Ian Eagle and JJ Watt.
Oh, even calling the host?
I told you I'm giving you broadcast teams too. Yeah. So imagine it's Ian Eagle, JJ Watt. We're in Jacksonville. We've got the Buffalo Bills, the 6-seeded Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen at the 3rd-seeded Jacksonville Jaguars and Josh Allen. Or Trevor Lawrence. God, I messed that up 3 times. Point being, Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence are playing in the game, right?
Yeah.
It's Ian Eagle. It's JJ Watt on the call. I think that's a fun game. First game of the playoffs.
Bills.
Saturday night, 8 o'clock on Amazon Prime with Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels on the call. You've got the 5th-seeded Texans at the 4th-seeded Ravens. Should be a fun game. CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson back healthy, Derrick Henry, the Texans pass rush duo. Could be a good one. Okay, then Sunday, 3-game slate at 1 o'clock Eastern on Fox with Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt on the call. You've got the Packers at the Bears. 7th-seeded Packers at the 2nd-seeded Bears. Big time game there. At 4:30 on CBS with their number 1 team of Romo and Nance. Jim Nance, Tony Romo on the call. We got the 7th-seeded Chargers at the 2nd-seeded Patriots.
I like that one.
And then at 8:15 on NBC, the game of the weekend that everyone will be excited for if it goes the way I'm thinking. It would also still be the NBC game, even if it goes the way you're thinking. and that is obviously Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on the call, the 6-seeded 49ers at the 3rd-seeded Eagles. Even if this was Rams-Eagles, I still think that's the NBC game, right? And so I don't think it would change anything there. And then on Monday Night Football, 8:15 on ESPN with Buck and Aikman, I've got the 5th-seeded Rams at the 4th-seeded Panthers. Again, even if it was the 5th-seeded Seahawks at the 4th-seeded Panthers, still think that's the Monday night game if it goes the way you think. Generally, the 4-5 NFC game has been the Monday night game so far. That's usually how that goes. The best game goes to Sunday night on NBC. I think that's Niners, Eagles, and then you kind of slot the rest of the games based sort of on TV rights, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it playing out, especially if it goes the way, I think, or mostly we think the games go. Like I said, the slight differences you and I have in the 1, 5, and 6 seeds in the NFC, it's really just the NFC West. Doesn't change much in terms of how these games get scheduled in my mind.
Dang, it's kind of tough though. Fox only having one game. We need
They only
Greg
get
Olsen
one
out there. That's tough.
I know it is tough. Like CBS gets 2, Prime gets 1, ESPN gets 1, and Fox gets 1. And that's kind of how it goes. And NBC still gets 1.
Yeah.
So all the networks get 1. CBS gets the 2. So, but I will say, in years past, where that second CBS broadcast team has been, I like Ian Eagle and JJ Watt. That's not a bad second group to have.
I don't know if I've heard JJ Watt on the call, to be honest.
He's been very good. But I will say it's not quite as good, I think, as the Olsen team for Fox. But, alas, such is life. Last thing before we go here, we're just going to break down quickly college football playoff quarterfinal game results. I'll give a quick takeaway from each game that I thought walking away from it. Jody, if you have any thoughts, make sure you add on here.
Sure.
Last night, New Year's Eve, Miami over Ohio State, the best game of the playoffs so far. Miami wins 24-14. My big takeaway there, Ruben Bain and Mesidor, the edge rushes for Miami. Number one, sick names, Bain and Mesidor. Those are football players if I've ever heard of them. They sound like creatures, not even football players. They sound like mythological creatures. Bain and Mesidor. They make the Miami defense one of the scariest units in college football. They took over the game. They wrecked the Ohio State O-line. Julian Zane had one of his worst games of the season by far. He threw for 287 yards, but he also only completed 62% of his passes. Talking about a guy that was completing almost 80% of his passes this year. He threw 1 touchdown to 2 picks, including the pick 6 that really busted the game open, right? He was also sacked 5 times, Ohio State only completed 3 of 10 third downs. The tandem of Bain and Mesidor had 3 of those 5 sacks. Good luck to whichever offense has to see them in the semis, whether it's Georgia or Ole Miss, because sheesh, those are 2 first-round talents right there. Those are 2 future first-round picks. The U is back. And side note, is it me or does it seem like anytime the committee makes a controversial decision, it always seems to work out for them? They always get validated by that decision, right? It was the big Miami or Notre Dame who should be in. Miami's in. They've won 2 games. It looks pretty good now, right? A few years ago, it was should Florida State be in or Alabama? And even though Alabama lost in the Rose Bowl, they lost a really close one to Michigan, who went on to destroy Washington, right? But meanwhile, Florida State got wrecked by Georgia in the bowl game. I know maybe that's some opt-outs, whatever, but it still kind of looked like they made the right choice. There's some other ones that I'm not thinking off the top of my head right now, but it just feels like every time they've kind of had oh, this team or that team, it always seems to work out for them that they pick the right team. I don't know. Or they somehow get the decision gets verified. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just no data to back it up. Just thought off the top of my head.
Only thing about
did you have anything on?
It's our guy Michael Irvin bringing out the belt. That was wild.
Oh my gosh!
He went from humping the ground earlier in the year to now bringing out the belt on the water station.
Honestly, that's my least favorite part of watching Miami games is how much they show Michael Irvin on the sideline, and it's cool. I get it. He loves his school.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I just think it's kind of lame. I'm just, but that maybe I'm not fun.
Bro,
Maybe I'm not fun.
on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, there literally you couldn't scroll without seeing the video of this fool taking off his belt.
Yes,
It was literally like a
yes.
30-second video. Like, bro, I don't need to see that on the broadcast. These fools just won. Go show them getting their shirt and hat.
Yeah, yeah. Make it about the team and the players, not about Michael Irvin, please. But that's whatever. Game 2 this morning. Oregon beat Texas Tech 23-0. My big takeaway there: Oregon's defense was awesome, but and I hate to do this because I'm not trying to take away from Oregon, but the Texas Tech's offense really helped them out by being just so bad.
Had that pick.
I've been, obviously live in the Lubbock area, big around a lot of Texas Tech fans. And I've been saying since probably the Utah game that Texas Tech's defense is one of, if not the best defense in the country. And I think that was verified today. I mean, they were awesome against an Oregon offense that's been really good. And yet, the Achilles heel for them was always going to be the quarterback. They just didn't have the guy at quarterback. They never did. Will Hammond, I think, was closer to being it, but he got hurt. So, who was the younger backup quarterback they had that played a little bit in the middle of the year when Baron Morton was hurt. Hammond tore his ACL. Morton came back and took the job back, obviously, and the rest is history. I do wonder if they'd had Hammond, if they would have been able to do something different here. But Texas Tech's defense was incredible. They had that game at 6-0 at halftime, despite giving up a fake punt and 2 turnovers in their own territory. Impressive as all get out. I mean, I haven't seen a defensive performance like that in a while. And so, unfortunately for Texas Tech, just like I said, Baron Morton, he just was not up to the task of helping this defense. And Oregon took advantage. They did what they were supposed to. They've won their 2 playoff games, Oregon, in very different ways. I think they are really dangerous. I picked them to win it all at the beginning of the playoff. We'll see if that proves out to be right. Any other thoughts on Oregon, Texas Tech before I move into the Rose Bowl?
Not much there.
Okay.
I don't know how. I think I've seen the first half, second half. I kind of put it to the wayside.
It was kind of a snooze fest in the second half, truthfully.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, the third game, the Rose Bowl today, that game was so bad. We got on here to record early. That ends in an Indiana blowout of Miami, 38-3, not Miami, Alabama. 38-3, and I really can't remember the last time I saw an Alabama coach team, an Alabama team lose like that, because that wasn't just like, oh, they lost by a decent margin. That was Alabama players were actively just like, you could see it on their face. They had no thought that they could win that game in the second half ever. I mean, truthfully, after about the first quarter, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. And then it was just like in the third quarter, fourth quarter, you saw Alabama it was bad, man. I haven't seen an Alabama team do that. And that was in part, obviously, what Indiana just did and how good they are. But I also thought in part that just was not a great look for Alabama. Indiana, 38-3. What a win for them. I think they're the best coach team in the dance. It's going to be tough to beat them. I really, truly believe at this point, you're going to have a semifinal matchup of Indiana and Oregon, and then Miami versus the winner of Georgia Ole Miss tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that none of the 3 teams in that Miami, Georgia, Ole Miss grouping have what it takes to beat Oregon or Indiana. I think the 2 best teams are Oregon and Indiana, and I think we're going to see whoever wins that semifinal matchup will win the national championship.
Makes sense.
I picked before the playoff started, and you just picked the games, right? In my bracket, I picked Oregon versus Georgia in the national championship, with Oregon winning it all. I had a semifinal of Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia. I really thought Miami, we talked about this last week. I told you take Miami on the points, way too many points, thought it would be much closer. Didn't know that Miami would win. I think I still, kind of was leaning towards Ohio State winning the game, but I thought it would be a very competitive, great game. Turns out, Miami was even better than I gave them credit for, certainly better than what the sportsbook gave them credit for. And so far, by the way, all 3 of those picks I gave out have been true. We'll see if the last one is right tonight, but I had Miami covering the points. They did that. I said, take the Oregon money line. They did that. I said, take Indiana by the 7.5. they did that. And now I said, I believe Georgia by the whatever 6.5 or 7.5 they were tonight against Ole Miss. We'll see if that comes to be true. But I think I have a pretty good feel for some of these teams in the playoff. I think we'll see a Georgia, Miami, Indiana, Oregon semifinal matchup. And I think you'll get a really good Oregon-Indiana game that those teams played earlier in the year. Indiana off a bye, went to Oregon and beat them. Very competitive game, although Indiana was dominating for a little bit of it. Oregon worked their way back into it with a pick six. Oregon's defense is playing great ball right now. Dante Moore, I love Dan Lanning. On the other side, like I said, I think Kurt Cignetti is the best coach in college football right now. I think Indiana's the best coach team. I think Indiana and Oregon, the two most complete teams. I have no idea how to pick that game other than before the dance I picked Oregon, so I'm going to stick with them. But
got to hold true to
I really do
your
think
original thought.
I really do think whoever wins that Oregon Indiana game wins the whole thing. So that's where we're at in the CFP right now. Any bangers of the week before we get out of here?
Oh, banger! I got you. I'm going with Mr. Recoup. That's by 21 Savage and Drake. Check that out. The beat on that thing kind of goes nuts. It's stuck in my head all day.
Okay. All right.
So go check that one
out. For me, I've got a new TV show recommendation for you. All right. You gave me one and I watched it and it was good. So I'm going to give you one now. I'm going to return the favor here. Right, similar vibe to the show that you gave me. All right. It's a Netflix show. It's called The Beast in Me. Good stuff. All right. It's about this woman. She's a writer. You kind of learn, of course, she's got kind of a tragic background. She has this new neighbor move into the neighborhood, and he's famous because his wife went missing. And, it's one of those he's like a famous developer, so people know who he is kind of thing. And then his wife went missing. So everyone's like, oh, he's innocent or he's guilty kind of deal, whether or not they think he murdered his wife. And of course, the story is way more complicated than that. And it becomes a whole thing where she ends up writing a book about him. But she has ulterior motives and stuff. And you kind of try and figure out what's going on. It's kind of a cat and mouse game between him and her. It's good stuff.
Okay.
Very good. You do not see. I called the twist that was coming in the very end of the 6th episode. It's 8-episode miniseries. So it's also not the next season, it's kind of nice. It's like that. It's like I said, similar to the show you recommended to me where it's 8 episodes. It's clean and there's twists. And by the 6th episode, you kind of know, oh, okay. Very end of the 6th episode, big twist that comes. I called it seconds before it happened. But before that, no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Yeah. Really good.
Netflix. What was the name? Yeah, it sounds interesting.
The Beast in Me.
Beast in Me. All right, word.
Yeah. But outside of that, Happy New Year to everyone. Get on your grind, whatever your goal is this year. Set it and achieve it and work towards getting into it. Yeah. And until then, the next time we're on this podcast, we're gonna be talking about the NFL playoffs, and nothing excites me more than freaking wild card weekend and the divisional round. Those 2 weekends back to back, most fun time in the NFL that we have. So excited for that. And until then, Jody, we got our guy Ray.
Taking us out.